And we are live, back with another live stream. Quite a few heavyweight fights on this weekend. I'll just wait for a few people to get in the chat. If you can hear me, this is the first time I've done a live stream for a little while. I will actually look to do a few more of these over the coming months. Starting to think that I might do one maybe once a week, 20-30 minutes or so at a time, about this time, which is Friday night my time. It's about 9:30 here. Not sure where you are in the world at the moment, but it'll be a Friday morning in the UK and late, I guess, on a Thursday night in... is it Friday night? No, I'm not sure. But it's going to be late anyway where you are if you're in America or that side of the world. So we have got a few people in the building here. So g'day to Pete, Steve, Adam is here. So yeah, as I was saying, and only a few people have just come in at the moment, I'm looking to do a few more live streams in the coming months. The channel's just over 2 years old now. This is only my third live stream, but I'm looking to do maybe one, maybe two a week. Generally I'm looking to potentially do one on a Friday at about this time, so it'll be roughly for 20 or 30 minutes. And one of the things that I found from the couple of live streams that I did earlier this year, that the time can just fly. All of a sudden you've gone through almost 2 hours. So I'll try to keep them brief, topical, couple of things that are sort of on my mind, what's been happening through the week, but also there'll be a couple of things obviously to sort of look towards the weekend if I do it at about this time. And we do have a couple of good fights coming up this weekend in the heavyweight division. I think the one that I'm looking forward to most is the Michael Hunter and Sergey Kuzmin one, and that really has had very sort of little exposure. I guess that one is more for sort of hardcore boxing fans. They're not the two biggest names, but that one there is pretty much close to a 50-50, and I am edging it towards Michael Hunter. I think he'll take it by decision. I know Adam Fahey in the chat, he does believe Sergey Kuzmin will get the decision, but because there's a sort of varying amount of opinions about who will win this and how they'll win this, I mean, it tells you that it's going to be a pretty decent fight. Kuzmin's one of these guys that has he's got all this potential. He's had a good career in the amateurs, but he hasn't quite fired in the pros yet. And I am looking forward to seeing him if he can take that step against a good opponent like Michael Hunter. Can he step it up? Because obviously in that fight against Joey DeWecco didn't look great. But I'll get to the chat here. So we've got a few people who've come in now. I think we've got 20 in the chat. So thank you for joining me here on the live stream. As I was sort of saying at the beginning, I'll look to sort of step up my live stream game a little bit more, maybe once a week or so, maybe twice a week, looking to potentially do it at about this time every week, at least one this week. But I'll just get through the chat here. So hello to everyone who's sort of said hello. Looking down the chat here. AJ will reveal what happened to him when he wins the rematch. Do you mean from the first fight? I think we just have to take it at face value to some extent. I mean, obviously that third round, that punch, it did change the course of the fight. And there's a couple of things that obviously have sort of cropped up this week, and I've obviously just dropped a video about half an hour to an hour ago about Rob McCracken. He's made some comments and he sought to clarify them about Joshua sort of being concussed, but he was sort of saying maybe I didn't sort of speak in the right terms. And I guess that's one of those sort of situations with boxing, especially for in the trainer with the corner. You know, they have to make judgment calls, and it can be on a knife edge. And I think we've all seen fights, you know, throughout the history of boxing where someone looks to be seriously hurt, but they've come back and they've put up a credible effort in following rounds, and sometimes even gone on to drop and hurt their opponent and win the fight, or just win the fight and, you know, getting off the canvas to win. So it is one of those situations. You have to judge all the sort of circumstances at the time, because that second time he was dropped in that round, that was very close to the bell. And I think if there had been a minute or two left, maybe he would have sort of thought very carefully about what he was going to do. But because the bell was coming so close to it, you know, I think that influenced what McCracken ended up doing. And that minute did give Joshua some respite, and obviously he recuperated to some extent for that fourth round. But it's not just Joshua making a judgment call in that situation. You have to look at the referee. He was obviously right there assessing Joshua, and he deemed him fit to continue. So it's not just on McCracken, obviously the referee, has a similar duty of care, and if he doesn't believe Joshua can continue, he wouldn't have let it continue. And obviously we saw in the 7th round, the referee actually waved it off and said, look, I've seen enough here. Okay, so I'll get back to the chat here. Steve says, found your channel last week. Excellent. Thank you, Steve. Thanks everyone who's here in the chat at the moment. Nice to be here, says one badass Croatian. And speaking of Croatians, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do next for Filip Hrgović, because it's been a bit of a sort of quiet year, and it's not quite the sort of explosion sort of through the division that I was sort of hoping for or expecting to see this year, especially sort of linking up, from Sauerland. He's on this co-promotional deal with Matchroom now, and it really has been quite quiet. He's had that Heredia fight recently where that was, over pretty lickety split as expected. But Filip Hrgović, I still do rate him. I do wonder, he didn't necessarily look great in that fight, and there has been some talk that he was potentially, one of his hands was injured, but yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see where they're going to take him, but I kind of got off track there. We'll get back to the chat here. So David says, not excited about Fury. Well, I'm excited to some extent to see him back in the ring, not necessarily excited about the opponent. It's not exactly the best opponent, is it? But I mean, Tyson Fury is one of the best fighters in the heavyweight division, arguably the number one. So, this level of opponent, while, I've been getting a lot of criticism from Tyson Fury fans who are not very happy with me, saying that, I've been sort of hating on him and I've been going in on him over the last sort of 6 months. But, I think for me at least, I've just been calling it as I see it, because Fury hasn't been facing good opposition, and no one can tell me that Tom Schwartz and Otto Warren are at the top of the division. And if you're a Fury fan and that hurts your feelings, well, I don't know what to tell you. I would like to see him in with better competition. But speaking of Fury, I don't know if you caught that interview which was on Fight Hype a day or so ago, where he said again, and this was in direct contradiction to Bob Arum, who's very sort of categorically said Fury will not fight again this year. He'll wait to the Wilder rematch if that happens in February. But Fury on that Fight Hype interview, and I, after you've been here, of course, I check it out. He says whether it's official or not, in terms of Top Rank and that sort of thing, he is going to be fighting again in December. He was very adamant that he's going to have a fight in December, and I guess some of that for him is between now, this fight here, which is in September, and then you have February. That's a long time. And Fury has spoken at length previously about wanting to stay busy, wanting to have goals and something to aim to. And I think probably he's looking at this gap going, that's the best part of 6 months. That's probably just too long for me. So I can understand why he would want to have a fight in December, but I guess the question is, that's going to cause some ructions with Top Rank and ESPN. Although when they announced that deal, they said he only had to have 2 fights in the United States as part of that deal each year. So, I mean, I think there could be a bit of back and forth about what happens next. And I'm not writing off, even if the Wilder rematch happened in February, I'm not writing off Tyson Fury having another fight. In terms of this weekend, I think he's going to get through that comfortably enough. I mean, Otto Warren, for me, and I've been saying it, right from the get-go, he is better than Tom Schwartz. How much better? Well, we just don't know, because he's still relatively unproven. Like Schwartz, he has missed a couple of steps, but he's a decent technician, a decent mover, and I do like the, especially the style matchup for Tyson Fury. I think he's going to win comfortably enough, probably not take too much damage, and if he doesn't take too much damage, he could well be in line for a fight in December if he really wanted to take one. He has previously said he thinks Uncle Frank could set that one up. So I'll just get back to the chat. I'm sort of, all over the place here. Huge fan of both guys. I still think Joyce is rattled by Kuzman. Yeah, that was a good performance by Kuzman in the amateurs. He's got good power, but, at this level, he just hasn't quite delivered yet. He's had those opportunities, but a couple of them, they were robbed from him, like the fight with Amir Mansour ended early on cuts. That David Price fight, that ended early because Price went into the fight with an injury, had enough after 4 rounds, and that robbed Kuzman of another opportunity. But then he has that fight with Dueco and looks terrible. Okay, so I'll get to the comments. I really got to get to them. I start getting off track here. But I do want to ask a couple of questions of you in the next sort of couple of minutes, just talking about the channel, the direction, things you'd like to see. But I'll just quickly work through some of this chat here. So Thunder Forever says, this is a good idea, mate. So hopefully that's talking about the live stream. JMac007, greetings. And actually, I know him. This is one of the only people I know in real life that follows my channel. He was subscriber number 33. Pete says, only really want to see Dean White versus Shane Fury. Who's Dean White? I think we've established that's not actually a real name. Okay, so Mr. Joe says, hello, Indonesia. And that's the thing with YouTube and one of these sort of channels, you never really know where people are watching from. And sometimes I do go have a look at the reports, and from, I think it was 164 countries, people from 164 countries have been watching my channel on a sort of regular to semi-regular basis, which, you know, broadcasting out of my back room in my house in New Zealand, to me that kind of just does blow my mind a little bit. Same result for the rematch. Ruiz won every round. I'm not sure he won every round. There certainly were some rounds that the judges gave Joshua after the knockdown. I mean, some of those may be debatable, but yeah, it's going to be interesting because I saw Tyson Fury's comment about, you know, you can't change Joshua from a bull to a racehorse, and to some extent I agree with that, because 6 months between fights, it's what is it really, 5 months, it's a short amount of time to effectively change your style. But I think one of the things Joshua will do in the rematch is he's going to be more cautious. He is going to, you know, try to be a bit more circumspect, I think, and use his advantages, the height and the reach. And as the bigger man in there, he should be, because that really, you know, is his advantage there. If he tries to mix it with Ruiz and get into a dogfight, I think we saw how that ended in that first fight. He actually, you know, got caught with a shot that he didn't see coming after he hurt Ruiz. He went in for the kill and got clipped, and that really did change the fight. And obviously this is some of the conversation we've just been having just before about Rob McCracken's comments, which have been seized upon by a number of different groups, including one called Headway, which has sort of said that him allowing Joshua to fight concussed was a shocking admission. Well, and I guess there's going to be a lot of different schools of thought here, and I'm kind of just, oh, that was the mic stand. I'm kind of just sort of weaving all over the place here, sort of stream of consciousness. But I think, you know, someone like McCracken and other experienced trainers, they're looking to see how their man is faring round to round, and if he was so seriously hurt that he couldn't continue, or he thought he would suffer long-term damage, he would pull his man out. I do think that McCracken and other trainers have boxer welfare at heart. It's their boxer after all. It's part of their livelihood. And sure, you can sort of say, well, the trainer can keep continuing, the boxer can't. But, you know, these guys don't want to see their fighters hurt. You know, I don't agree that, you know, he was deliberately trying to put Joshua in harm's way there. After all, it's a fight. There, you know, you don't go into this, you know, lightly. There is going to be some heavy leather traded in any sort of boxing match at that level, and you can expect to take punches, you know, even if you're not concussed. And sometimes you never know with these other instances with Maxim Dadashev. I mean, you saw what happened in that fight. He was pulled out by his trainer. His trainer saw he was in distress and said, no, I've seen enough. And then it was after that that he obviously went downhill. And fighter safety certainly is in the, you know, public eye at the moment. And this sort of crops up from time to time. You know, we do end up seeing, you know, the issue of boxing and people saying it needs to be banned. And it's not just boxing, but other combat sports as well. So I'll get back to the chat here. It seemed to start going through and then sort of go off on a tangent here. Okay, so Joshua was ahead on the cards before being stopped. I think 2 had Ruiz up on the cards and 1 had Joshua. The Beyonder says, what's good boxing squared? Parker versus Chisora, your breakdown. Well, I don't know if it's because Parker, you know, I've made no secret about this before. He is my favourite fighter. But in this instance, I do think that, you know, his speed, his movement is going to be the difference in that fight. And we've seen before where Chisora faced a guy like Caballel who gave him some movement. It gave Chisora some trouble. And if Chisora and if Parker goes into that fight trying to fight similar to the way that he did to the Dillian White fight, which he was taken on board that criticism that he didn't really have enough dog in him and he wasn't aggressive enough, he fought Dillian White's fight, and that helped White win that fight. I don't think he'll make that same mistake twice. And even if it comes off, if he ends up looking a little bit boring, and he sort of ekes out a decision over Chisora. A win is a win, and at this point in Parker's career, he needs the win, because if he loses to Chisora, his options really do narrow down in the heavyweight division. Okay, so Freedom Fighting 123, great channel, Boxing Squared. Back to work though. Thanks for joining us. Boxing Spectrum, Joshua only needs to throw straight punches 1-2 instead of using hooks. Well, I think, yeah, he will be trying to keep Ruiz on the end of the jab, you know, using those longer levers. He's got such a big advantage in height and reach over Ruiz. It'd be crazy not to use it. And it may end up being a little bit like their sort of Parker fight, where he is a bit more circumspect. Blue Collar Sports TV, aka Del Boy, what's up, brother? Listening from work, hope you're well. I'm doing good. What time is it in the UK? It must be about, what, almost 11 a.m.? Yeah, I'm looking to, as I was saying earlier, and I know people sort of for live streams, you know, often pop in and out, so I'll just sort of repeat what I was saying at the beginning. Looking to do more of these live streams as I sort of take the channel sort of in the next phase of the channel. So we're a couple of years in at the moment. Obviously, I've been building up a sort of subscriber base, building up what I do in terms of the coverage of the heavyweight division. There's certainly been distinct stages of, you know, what I've been doing and how I've been trying to build the channel, and I'm sort of looking to move to that next sort of phase. But I'm interested to get a little bit of feedback. I mean, do you want to see more live streams? Is this something that you'd like to see from me? What are some of the things that you would like to see from me, you know, with the Boxing Squared YouTube channel? Because I feel, you know, it does feel often I'm doing most of the same things week in, week out, but I do try to vary up some of the types of videos that I do, and, you know, I throw in the odd heavyweight news and brief video, which is often just sort of straight news. There's stuff around just news bits, or there is previews, reviews, but interested to get your take on what you want to see from the channel sort of moving forward, and would you like to see more of this, more of the live streams? Because certainly that's what I'm looking to potentially do, maybe one a week, something like that, just to mix it up a little bit, because, you know, I don't want the channel to sort of end up going a little bit stale, and the live stream does offer a little bit of an opportunity, even though I'm sort of just, you know, rambling on here, on and on and on. It does offer the opportunity for something a bit different, a bit of engagement. I'll get back to the chat here, but yeah, let me know what are some of the things you'd like to see coming out of the channel in the next wee while, because I'm always looking to sort of build on what I've done to try improve, and a little bit of change can sometimes be good, because I don't want things just to go stale and, you know, to go off the boil, because I do want to sort of challenge myself as well. And like you know, I you know, this is not a full-time gig. This is a part-time gig that I, you know, really enjoy doing. I enjoy bringing you boxing, you know, as I say in my videos, news and views from around the internet. And some of you may have noticed that I've just sort of been mixing up the intro in the last couple of days. And that's, I think, some of what I was just sort of saying. I'm just sort of trying a couple of things, not trying to, you know, keep things, you know, I don't want things to go stale. I'm just sort of trying a couple of things. But yeah, what do you think of the current intro? Have you noticed that I even did change it? And, you know, is a shorter intro, do you like that more? Keen for your feedback on that. So whip into the comments here. So James Burrell says it's understandable that he would have an off night after the Wembley cancellation, Miller kerfuffle, and then a concussion. People that are writing AJ off in the rematch are crazy. Yeah, I think this is going to be a competitive rematch, and I do believe that they, you know, in hindsight, it was probably the wrong call to continue with that night. But I think there was so much invested in, you know, Anthony Joshua's first fight in the United States. It was sort of the, you know, Joshua invasion, trying to sort of stamp his mark here. But I guess the thing is, if he wins against Ruiz in the rematch, his star power probably, you know, becomes bigger than it was before, and it will be that whole sort of redemption story. So Pete says, good fight for Parker, not so much Chisora. He's taken too much damage over the years. Would rather he fought an easier opponent. Who, Chisora or Parker? Chisora. Well, I think at the moment Derek Chisora is up for a pound note, and he will take whatever he can get. He probably realises that his days of contention at 35 now, you know, probably the next couple of years, he will, you know, be starting to, like a lot of older heavyweights, starting to sort of fade off into obscurity. Sure, like a guy like Dave Allen, he's got a decent following. You know, people do like following his career. But I think, if he continues to rack up the losses, there comes a tipping point where you go, okay, do we want to see this guy again? Obviously, we haven't reached that point at the moment, but it will get there eventually. So, Gorger, sorry, I'm butchering that name. Spong looks okay, not some random punching bag, probably better than Wallen. Actually, Otto Wallen versus Tyrone Spong, that would be an interesting fight. Spong, obviously a big power puncher, Wallen a decent mover. I think maybe the styles wouldn't mesh so well in terms of being a barn burner, but it'd be an interesting fight. Headphones at work, why not? I love it. And actually, tell me, can you hear, I've got the fan just rolling on a very light sort of setting at the moment. Can you hear that fan in the background? If not, that's a good thing, because this room that I'm in, which is where I do all my videos, it is insulated, and it gets hot like a sauna if I don't have the fan on. So if you can't hear it if it's not too much of a distraction, that's good, because I do like to actually have that sort of breeze rolling through. But I digress. So we're already 20 minutes in, so I'll probably only go for another 10 minutes. I don't want these things to drift off into, because it can be so easy to all of a sudden be an hour and a half, 2 hours into the live stream, as I found out in my first couple of streams. So we'll look to do probably about this time every week for about 20 or 30 minutes. So Garuga says maybe get some callers in. Yeah, I've still got to investigate, because I'm on this Streamlabs OBS system, which is sort of joins on to the YouTube setup. I'm not even sure how I would do that, but it's one of these things, the more I do it, the better I'll get, and I'm going to find out some things as I go along. But I think in terms of the live streams, for the first while, it'll just be baby steps. I'll look to just 20-30 minutes, do it more and more. And this is only my third live stream on the channel ever. It's one of these things that I just sort of held off doing because I was building the channel through other ways, through videos, predominantly news-based or, opinion-based, depending on the circumstances, what was around, if it was a fight review or whatever. But I will look to mix a few more of these in. Or co-hosts. Yeah, that could be something. I mean, I'll have to... more lives and guests. Okay, yeah, I'm going to have to investigate how I would do some of that stuff, because in terms of the live stuff, that really is almost like a blank slate for me. Download this software and it's kind of like you almost, you set up a couple of things and you hit go and it goes live. But to get other people on here, I'm not even sure how I would do that. I know that there are some other technically savvy people who might be able to sort of direct me in the right sort of direction here. Maybe more fighter interviews if possible. Yeah, it's one of those things it is something that I have done some of. Obviously, I've interviewed a number of New Zealand fighters, Junior Far, I think 4 or 5 times. I've interviewed David Higgins, Shane Cameron, a few New Zealand-based fighters, that sort of thing. I've got some comments online from different fighters, from Joey DeWecco before, a couple of other different fighters, but the time difference is a bit of a killer, and there's been 1 or 2 comments sort of in recent videos talking about that the time difference, sometimes the timeliness I might be able to get a video out is because obviously a lot of stuff will happen when I'm asleep, and I can't do too much about that, but I'll still want to comment on the story, give my take. And I think that's some of what I'm, I guess in terms of other channels, you can get analysis from other people, but I'm still looking to do those types of videos, even if a story has been around for a day or so, and if I feel it's worth waiting in on because I feel strongly about it, I'll do a video. Like the original one, the intro. The shorter intro, the better. Nobody got time for that. Live interviews on Skype. Yeah, that's something I'm going to have to... Yeah, I guess in the next phase, some of it becomes down to time as well, because obviously the time difference, but I work full-time as well. So some of these things, especially for people overseas, it becomes a bit logistically challenging, but it's not impossible. Parker's footwork and jab was decent in that Ruiz fight, helped keep him at range. Not sure if AJ's footwork is as good as Parker's, though. He may get caught in exchanges again. Yeah, he totally could. I mean, Andy Ruiz Jr. was finding his way to the inside pretty comfortably in that first fight. And if Joshua doesn't tighten up on defense and doesn't try to, really use that jab as a weapon, it could happen again. Tyrone Spong is pretty good. I followed him during his kickboxing career, but Usyk will win this anyways. Yeah, I agree. I mean, Tyrone Spong, as a kickboxer, yeah, great kickboxer, storied career. But in terms of what he's done in the heavyweight division, it really is pretty threadbare. And he did go life and death with a journeyman, Yatalo Pereira, at the end of last year. And for context, Pereira just got taken out in a couple of rounds by Piccoli just a few weeks back. So Jade Louise Tidman says, big love from the UK. FYI, the fan has brought a light breeze over here, and that's just wafted a butterfly into a hurricane. Okay. Squared, talk to big boys about Streamlabs. Yeah, I think I'll have to do that. He's pretty good at that. So Blue Collar Sports TV, aka Del Boy. Every stream I go into, I see MJP questions. MJP? I must be missing something. What's that short for? Michelle Joy Phelps. Okay, moving on. Boxing Spectrum. I remember the first live stream that you did. Well, yeah, there's not many of them to remember. This is only the third one. Cass Ghost, glad you're doing live streams. I don't hear the fan at all. That's good. I think Otto will probably lose, but will expose Fury with body shots. I think Wallen will put up a decent effort in terms of lasting. I think he's not going to trouble Fury too much offensively. I think we'll see Otto Wallen fighting somewhat of a rearguard action. He'll be using movement, as will Fury, but he'll be looking to offset what Fury is doing. But I don't think he'll have too much in terms of the offensive end. And if you've seen Otto Wallen fight before, he's not a massive puncher. So even if he's able to get a few shots away on Fury, I don't think he's really got the power to break Fury down over a number of rounds. I don't think he'll be landing enough shots. My favourite channel, Boxing Squared. Much love. See you soon. Thank you, Jade. Everybody hit that like. Yes, please. Do hit the like button. So Right Hook Boxing. Gutted. Can't hang about, mate. Stick a thumbs up, though, before I go. Thank you, Right Hook Boxing. And if you haven't followed or subscribed to Right Hook Boxing, please do so. Great channel. He's approaching 1,000 subscribers. Go over there and subscribe if you already haven't. He's a very good channel, unbiased content, very sort of rational comments, and yeah, very good content. So Rory Bailey says, what are you planning for the channel next year? It's an interesting question. It's kind of been one of these things with the channel. It's kind of evolved organically. To begin with, in the first sort of few months, 6 months, one of the biggest challenges was just learning software for editing videos and trying to, just get everything smooth and put it together. And it took me a while just to get used to the technology. And yeah, I'm not the most tech savvy guy compared to, on the spectrum. I'm sort of one of these guys that might take a little bit longer to, learn some of the ins and outs of a system. But once I've got it, I'm fine. But in terms of, I guess with live streams now and trying to work out what to do, how to bring guests on, just trying to have a few more bells and whistles. Might take a little bit of time, but I guess we'll get there. The more, it's like anything, the more you do it, the better you get. Okay, so Harley says, where are we? Double RT Boxing with Mr. A. How are you? So he's also got a great channel, very good boxing knowledge. It covers, a lot of very, I don't want to say obscure fights, but if someone is fighting in a back alley, Double RT Boxing with Mr. A is covering it. Boxing Source says, yo, my bro, you good? Enjoying the live stream? Well, thank you. Big ups to you. And hopefully we'll be doing more of these on a regular basis. As I was saying earlier, looking to do these maybe once a week at about the same time for about 20-30 minutes-ish, something like that. I'm wary that I don't want these to drag into 1.5 hours, that sort of thing, because I know myself, I find it hard to listen for that long. And as I've sort of seen by analytics, and if you have a YouTube channel, for some of these different things, you have to build up, well, how long are people watching for? Why are they watching, and what sort of, is the watch time? And, generally for a live stream, it seems to be about 10 minutes or so. And if you've been here the whole time, big ups to you. So we have, where are we here? So, Delboy trying to sell the fight so he can buy more Vaseline. Yeah. Now, those were some pretty intense comments earlier this week. So Harley says, at Boxing Squared, greetings from another Kiwi. Do you think Michael Hunter has the potential to be a true contender? Very good question. I think he's still caught in that space where a lot of people see him as a cruiserweight. He's still trying to shake that tag, and I think if he didn't have that tag, he would have been the guy that Anthony Joshua fought in June, not Ruiz, because he was the front runner for a little while there, and all of a sudden it sort of dipped out. But and I think some of that was to do, they were looking at the optics of it, going, this guy is still, considered by fans as not a true contender, that he's still considered as a cruiserweight. But if he can beat Sergey Kuzmin, he puts himself in another sort of step towards, I guess, relevancy in terms of how people perceive him. I mean, he had a decent bit of momentum after the Piccoli and Ustinov wins, and sort of some of that sort of ebbed away a little bit. But with this Kuzmin fight, which I do think he is going to win, I think the first few rounds will be very competitive, but I think Hunter takes over. And if you didn't see the weigh-in or didn't catch up with the weights, Kuzmin was 258. That's the highest for 3.5 years. So I think this will be a case where Hunter, with his activity, because he'll be sniping in and out, he'll be looking to work body and head with jabs, he'll be looking to make Kuzmin work. I think that might take a toll in the second half of the fight where Hunter could take over. Okay, where are we? So only one Aeon. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Boxing Squared is a top boxing news channel. Keep it up, buddy. I like to hear that. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching, and everyone who's been supporting the channel for any length of time, I do thank you. GTA 6 Versetti. At some point Josh will have to plant his feet and trade. It's whether he can survive Andy's onslaught up close. Yeah, there will be some spots, I'm sure, where he will do that, and I guess it depends, what's he, because he didn't see that left hook coming, and I guess that's been something throughout his career. He's been caught with left hooks by Povetkin, by White. Can he sort of shore up his defense, keep his hands up? Lucky Luciano, Dave Allen, we will miss you. It's a little bit sad. Dave Allen is a very sort of tragic figure within boxing. Guy who's, suffers big highs and big lows, and clearly he's identified himself that he needs some help, and physically and mentally not doing very well. So I wish him all the best. Thoughts on Nigel Benn's return on November 23rd? Very surprising. Very surprising. 55-year-old, and I think they were talking about Saki Obika. I would have thought that that's not going to end well. I did watch actually Blue Collar Sports TV's video when I was on the way back from the gym today, and I agree with what he was saying. I don't think this is going to end well for Nigel Benn. At 55, I mean, he was looking on the slide 23 years ago, so another 23 years. Sure, he's in shape, but I mean, what can he really do now? It's kind of like Oliver McCall, he's still, on the scene, sort of, campaigning in obscurity. What's he, 53, 54? At some point, you got to hang it up, and hang it up for good. I mean, what's he trying to get out of this? I mean, if it was a case where it was Nigel Benn with someone who was his same age, one of his former rivals, Steve Collins or Chris Eubank, etc., I could understand that. It's kind of a bit of a showcase type fight, but someone who's recently been active in boxing that he's looking to potentially fight, not sure that's going to go well. Nigel Benn is fighting KSI Paul Winner. Heard it here first. Well, I think he would smoke those guys, no matter how good they think they are. Salty Sally says, what software you use to edit vids? Adobe Premiere Pro. Very good software. Even now, after 2 years of using it, it's, every week or month, I'm still discovering new things that help me do things a little bit better. So Right Hook Boxing, thanks Boxing Squared, and James Burrell. And James said Right Hook is a great channel, quality. And I do urge you, go over to Right Hook Boxing, subscribe, and very good channel. Also, Blue Collar Sports TV, if you haven't already subscribed, formerly Del Boys Boxing News, great channel, do sign up, it's quality stuff. Steve, best boxing channel in New Zealand. To be fair, the worst channel is in third place. There's actually not too many boxing YouTubers, but I guess in New Zealand that is. But I guess that shows that it's a fringe sport. And I think that's one of the issues facing boxing more broadly. It is a fringe sport. So, it's I think boxing long term has got a few potential issues. I mean, right now we're in a sort of space going through a bit of expansion in a few different places. There's a bit more money in the sport. But some of these things are cyclical, so it's sort of boom bust. So you could find in 2 or 3 years it sort of starts to go through a bit of a lull again if some of the broadcasters drop off, and then all of a sudden it's out of more sort of not in the minds of fans as much, especially casual fans. And so I think there is, but some of this goes back to the way it's set up. You've got sanctioning bodies galore and all sorts of stuff. Yeah, but that's probably not worth getting into. Okay, so where were we in the chat here? Becomes hard to keep up. So Blue Collar Sports TV, aka Del Boy, says, what time is it over there? But right now it is 10:12 p.m. King Solomon, morning mate, keep up the good content coming. I'll try. And I was just saying earlier, it's one of these things that channels just over a couple of years old now, looking to just sort of branch out and try a few new things, and live stream, I'll try to work a few more in, and I'm sure we'll get it better and more savvy at them, being able to have a bit of back and forth with a guest or something like that. I've still got to work out how to use the software properly. At the moment it's sort of click, go live, and I'm sort of rambling and bouncing off the comments here. Where are we? Can you tell us the reason why you only cover the heavyweight division? Also, are you planning on covering the lower divisions too? Well, that's one of the things I've sort of grappled with since I started the channel, and the reason that I cover the heavyweight division is more about time, because I work full time. I don't always have time to dedicate hours and hours and hours to the channel. So I made a conscious decision very early on in the channel to cover that one division, but cover it really well. And I think with the sort of breadth of the stuff that I do for the heavyweight division, I do bring a lot of videos that you don't see on other channels regarding heavyweights, but also when I do videos like Heavyweight News and Brief, I'm exposing more of the heavyweights that are sort of but I was doing stuff about Otto Wallin well ahead of this fight with Tyson Fury, and there's a lot of people say, oh, people had never heard of Otto Wallin. Well, I was covering him for some time. So yeah, I do try to cover it in depth, and but I do realize that for some fighters there's a limited audience, and that's why I'll try to build in sometimes compilation type vids, Heavyweight News and Brief, or I'll try to mix in some of those fighters that don't get as much exposure in a heavyweight boxing mashup video. But I do try to get in some of those fighters that don't necessarily get in so much shine, because there is more than just the top 3 or 4 guys. I mean, it is easy to fall into the trap to just cover Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, and I guess now Andy Ruiz Jr. So I do try to sort of get out of that bubble of just covering some of the top guys. And sometimes I'll see a story with one of those guys and I'll think, oh, well, it's only 1 point and it's not much of a story, but I'll know it'll get views. But then I'll be like, no, I just can't, like inside I'm just I just can't be, it's like I can't get up to do that video because it doesn't interest me in the way that, say, like a couple of videos that I did today, one with the whole Jarrell Miller and Joe Joyce saga playing out on social media, with Dimitri Salita coming back and saying thanks but no thanks, come back in a year and we'll see where you are. Like, to me, that whole saga and following that in the last week, that was far more interesting, and than some of these 1 or 2 point stories that involve one of the other top heavyweights. Sometimes it becomes a bit of a chore to cover those top guys if it's just a minor point. Yeah, and the whole thing with Dave Allen, I mean, I've been following his career for quite some time, and it's sort of a sad situation to see where he is right now, but I do hope he gets well. And that was something that I wanted to cover, and I covered that over something else that I knew would have got more views. But sometimes it's not just about the views, it's about because I've got to be interested in the stuff that I'm covering. I don't want it to be the same old stuff with some of the same old fighters time and time again. But yeah, essentially getting back to the question, it was more of a issue about time. I wanted to cover one division, do it well, instead of just cherry picking different content from different divisions, because I wanted to provide some in-depth coverage. And I think sometimes because I have been covering fighters over a length of time, I can provide maybe a few more tidbits of information or insight on a fighter that maybe other channels can't. I don't know. Where are we? Right Hook Boxing, still enjoying your channel. More, mate. Catch you later. Hopefully we'll get some more live soon. Well, that's the plan. Luciano, if he boots Kuzman, Del Boy should be his next stepping stone. Who, Hunter? Yeah, that'd be a good fight. Michael Hunter and Derek Chisora. Big Boys Boxing in the house, formerly Kiwi Box. He's had a few issues with YouTube, so he's rebranded, got a new channel up. If you haven't been subscribed to his channel and you want to get some more heavyweight boxing content and other content from some other divisions like cruiserweight, etc., Big Boys Boxing, very good channel for that. I do recommend it. Great guy. When I first started on YouTube, Big Boys Boxing helped me out a lot because I think I was alluding to earlier, I was, I'm not too technical savvy with some of those things. So early on, Kiwi Box was really helping me out with sort of navigating some of the vagaries of YouTube, of which, it might seem simple, but all the back end of the YouTube system and what you have to learn, and you start to get a handle on the analytics and what other bits and pieces mean. So very appreciative of that help from Big Boys Boxing, aka Kiwi Box. I wouldn't mind the Hunter vs. Kuzman winner fighting Povetkin next. Well, I think Kuzman versus Povetkin, that felt like a logical fight, like a passing of the torch type fight, but I'm not sure Kuzman's done anything to sort of earn it. So if he does win against Hunter, yeah, I'd like to see that fight. And actually, because Kuzman is working with Matchroom at the moment, and Povetkin kind of is loosely tethered to them, I would think that would be a good one to make for the Joshua card in Saudi Arabia. I guess it depends on who takes any damage here. So we're coming up on 41 minutes, and I said I was going to speak for about half an hour, so I'll quickly wrap through the last few bits of comments. Okay. Where are we? Yeah, POV is a good shout. Not sure what that's in regards to. Okay, please do a KSI versus Logan Paul preview. I think I will give that one a miss. Not that because I think it's a bad fight, because I think that could potentially be something that could be good for boxing. Get more, of the younger generation interested. Oh, okay, so he was talking about, Povetkin is a good shout. Yeah, okay, I got you now, Lucky Luciano. The Beyonder, don't get too apprehensive about the technicalities of going live. Mr. Boxing Live today live streams on his phone in the car. Yeah, no, but what I was talking about was in terms of getting guests and other people on. I mean, going live, effectively I'm doing the same as Mr. Boxing. This is just, through a piece of software, but trying to get to that next level in terms of technical ability to do that stuff. I've still got to learn those things. Cass Ghost, it's 6 a.m. here. You got one hell of a time slot, lol. Love to start my day with boxing chat. Well, thank you for joining us here. And thank you to everyone who has been supporting the channel for however long you've been part of the channel and watching videos. I do appreciate it. John Otto, Ruiz will beat Joshua in the pocket and possibly at mid-range. If he draws Joshua in, he will be in trouble. It's a bit of a 50-50 fight. Yeah, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Ruiz wins it. I think it is going to be a competitive rematch, and I could totally see Ruiz winning again, but I could see Joshua getting his revenge and getting a bit of redemption there. Miroslav Bacek, I found your news about boxing, and I really think you're objective and not biased like some others YouTube channels about boxing. Got to go now since I'm working, but just to say that, keep up. Well, thank you very much, Miroslav. Salty Sally says, thanks on Frank Sanchez, the Cuban. Looks a beast. Yeah, I don't know. I've got to see a bit more. Some of what I've seen, I've thought, yeah, he looks okay, but then I'm like, what is he, like 40 years old? I don't believe that he's 26. He must be the oldest 26-year-old I've ever seen. Fraser Steen says, stick to the heavyweights. If you drop down to other divisions, they're all chopping and gaining weight. It'd be a huge task. Yeah, and that's, part of it too. If I do sort of go beyond my sort of heavyweight wheelhouse at the moment, which obviously covering the one division, from the time that I do have, I'm able to sort of keep abreast of all the changes that are going on and different bits of news, and I'm able to sort of do research and other bits and pieces. Going to those lower weights, I would certainly risk losing some of the coverage that I now provide in the heavyweight division. And also, one of the benefits, it allows me to be a fan for these other divisions. Because like you, I watch boxing because, I love the sport. I love watching boxing. It's one of those things where for the other divisions, I don't have to worry about doing a post-fight review or, doing a preview video for certain fights. I can watch another channel and just sort of veg out, listen to that, watch the fight. And, and it's not that I don't watch anything but heavyweights. I watch a lot of other divisions, all the big fights. But, yeah, it does allow me to be a fan for those. So it's kind of there is a benefit to what I have been doing in terms of at least me being a fan as well. Adam Fahey says, little known fact, Andy Ruiz signed to fight Hughie Fury on Fury v Klitschko 2 in Manchester. Never happened. Then the people in the UK would have known more about Ruiz had he beaten Hughie. Sean O'Donoghue, nice one, mate. GTA, Joshua got clipped even at mid-range by 69-inch reach. Klitschko return imminent on the... Vladimir Klitschko, I hope he doesn't return. That whole will he, won't he, I'm sort of over that as well. Tyson Fury is an overrated, boring fighter. I don't think he's overrated. I think, he justifiably is one of the best heavyweights in the division, but he needs to do better in my eyes. For me, Otto Wallen, that doesn't sort of cut it for me, and if you're a Fury fan and you're offended by that, well, I don't know what to tell you. Okay, I've finally caught up on the chat, and that's quite hard to do sometimes. Hunter vs. Kuzman, that's tomorrow. What is it? From now, it's about, 18 hours away, something like that. Or maybe it's even less, about 14 hours. That will be a good fight. I'm looking forward to that. That is the most competitive heavyweight fight this weekend. Yes, the Fury fight is this weekend, Sunday my time. They're trying to charge us $35 in New Zealand for that card, which I just think is outrageous. It's Boxing Bitches says, just stick to heavyweights. Yeah, I'm sort of tossing up what to do, but in the interim, as I build the channel and sort of look to keep sort of mixing it up in terms of what I'm doing and in terms of not just getting stale and doing the same things. Initially, I'll just try to look to do a few more lives. Do you think Joseph Parker can be a 2-time world champion? Your opinion? If he brings mongrel to his game, I think he can stop anyone. I don't necessarily think it's about mongrel. I think like the first time, it's about matchmaking, opportunities, and styles make fights, and obviously performances make fights. I think if he had a time again to fight Anthony Joshua after seeing what Ruiz did, he would have been more aggressive. New Zealand is a stunning location for boxing, up in the mountains. Okay. And Lee Craft, aka TBK the First, I think Hunter wins. Yep, I'm leaning that way. I'm going to wrap it up in a minute. We've got Adam Fahey saying, decent we stream here, Boxing Squared, enjoyed it. I enjoyed your company. All of you who've turned out. I know not everyone would have been listening throughout. It's one of these things that, often people listen 5, 10, 15 minutes. But if you have been here the whole time, or at least a decent chunk of time, I thank you. So I will wrap it up now, but thank you for joining me. I'll try to look to do more regular live streams, have a bit more interaction like this, and the more I do of it, I'm sure that I will be able to up my game on the technical front, and I'll try to seek out a few people to help me out about how I do some of these things. But anyway, thank you. Drop a comment loud and often. This will have to be on the archive.